If you want to become a Vim user, one of the main ways now is through NeoVim distros like LazyVim, LunarVim, AstroVim, NVChad used to be one, and then there's a project called Kickstart.nvim or something like that. I think that's a much better one. My main beef with these distros, and I'm saying this as someone who used LunarVim and then LazyVim and then made my own configuration, is I think it dramatically will slow down your progression in getting advanced at Vim. And that's because Vim's power is not from its terminal speed, it's not from the built-in motions, so much as it's from the fact that you can script it to do basically anything you want. It's got like Turing complete languages built into it. So you can automate pretty much any workflow. And the problem with these distros is they kind of just ship you a bunch of features like they're an IDE. It's almost like opening up a JetBrains thing and seeing like all those 300 tabs and debuggers and refactorers and so many plugins, you know? You don't even know what to do with them. There's so many, and you can learn them over time. It's just that time frame to learn all those features of your IDE on the command line basically is way, way worse than just following like a tutorial to create your own configuration from scratch. That's my opinion, at least. I've been using Vim for a long time. I think I was on LunarVim for maybe 4 or 5 months, and I think if I had spent one weekend just watching like the Primogen create a configuration tutorial, and I don't know, maybe there's better ones now. Shout out to sylvanfranklin. I hear he has really good tutorials on a very basic NeoVim configuration now. But yeah, just one weekend learning to make your own configuration is worth like months of Googling and trying to fix small problems with a NeoVim distro. Another big problem with them is if you're trying to configure your experience, there's a lot of abstraction layers, at least for LunarVim there was. So you're now Googling like in LunarVim, how do I fix this? Which is really just so bad and dumb. It's much better to be Googling like in Lua, how do I make this? And just work with the NVim API directly. You'll understand it way more. And I'm not like hating on anyone here. I'm not like gatekeeping and saying, oh, if you don't use like stock Vim, you've configured yourself. If you don't use VI, you're not a real Vim user. You're posing. I don't think that necessarily. I just think people like are not getting what they're hoping to out of Vim. Like I see a lot of people using the Vim distros, the NVim distros, and it practically comes down to the same speed as just using VS Code with the Vim extensions, because you're not doing any of the advanced features because everything was kind of handed to you out of the box and you never took the like kind of annoying 2 or 3 days of just hard work to learn all the advanced Vim features. And that's really what I think sets people back quite far. Most people who use NeoVim distros eventually build their own configurations because it's kind of like an addictive slippery slope if you're the type of person to get into it. So it usually ends up being fine. I think it just like dramatically can slow down your progress. Also, another thing is, if you don't go through the process of making your own configuration, it's hard to really know what's possible within the API, and you don't really know how to think about plugins and changing things and configuration in general. So I guess a basic example is like manipulating auto commands, which pretty much just let you tap into something in the event cycle. So say every time you write a buffer, save a file basically, or every time you format the code, or every time you open up a new tab or window, you can run something. And that's very powerful in different cases. For instance, at my job the other day, we do local work on our back end, and then we rsync it to a remote server, and then we can hit an endpoint. And just using, like, my boss set up like a little auto command that basically asynchronously, whenever he writes a buffer, it just runs this rsync command for that file. And without the knowledge of auto commands, you just wouldn't even know like what to look for in setting that up. And at that point, you're basically like searching Google, searching GPTs, whatever, for an answer. That's really not all that different than just like opening the GUI extensions tab in VS Code and looking for like remote rsync plugin, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that really, but it's like if you got into Vim, there's kind of no point in using one of these distros because it's essentially the same thing you would be doing with VS Code, just maybe a little faster on the command line. I guess maybe for some people that's reason enough, it's just the performance of it, but it's like the power of Vim is a tool that you'll know deeply and know how to configure to do whatever you want, to bend to your will. It's not just like, here's a pre-made tool that has all the features you want. That's VS Code. And again, I don't know. I guess it's nice that they've made a command line version of it, but you're just like using 1% of the power available to you by doing this. And in general, also, I think there's kind of talked about this a little bit already, but a kind of fallacy or a deceptive thing that goes on where it seems like you're learning a lot and doing a lot of work by Googling like fixes and stuff to your AstroVim or LazyVim configuration all day. The problem with that, though, is it's just way less efficient than like just reading the documentation and like the quick start guides and watching like a dense tutorial and actually following it. You can just achieve basically 10 times the amount of knowledge if you actually just put in like a weekend of hard work instead of like trying to slowly integrate it in. It's like learning a new keyboard layout, right? I think more people should treat this like learning Dvorak or Colmac. So you'll like spend maybe a week just like only focusing on understanding Vim and then you integrate it in, versus it would be like, you know, you're at work and you're like middle of the workday. All right, I'm going to just try Colmac DH. And now you're down to typing it 2 words per minute. I think a lot of people kind of get fed up. I don't know the quitting statistics with Vim distros, but it's like you switch to a Vim distro expecting like godly prowess, and maybe it's just like tiny bit faster than your VS Code workflow, or maybe it's slower because it doesn't support certain features. So that's my experience, and absolutely no hate to anyone using VS Code. If they're like an advanced user and know what they're doing, it's totally capable. And no hate to people using these distros either, if that's just what you want to do. You want VS Code basically, but with certain command line performance features, and that's it. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents on it. I think these NeoVim distros are just so similar to full IDEs. They just have like a different graphics front end, and people act like it's a full-on custom Vim setup when the real power comes from customizability. So yeah, sorry for the trashy low effort video topic today. Like typically I wouldn't recommend spending all your time watching stuff like this, and this especially is like a meta discussion of like, oh, this one way of getting into this certain text editor is not as optimal as this other way. Is like it's pretty annoying. I think that a topic like this even has to be made, and maybe it doesn't, I don't know, I'm just taking shots in the dark here. But yeah, I would have kind of liked this video a while ago, and it probably exists like 10,000 times over somewhere on the internet, but maybe me saying it will trigger something in you. Yeah, I would just go watch tutorials. I don't know, man. You'll be fine. You're going to get a good job if you're watching NeoVim tutorials in your free time already. Yeah, I'll catch you next time.